So it's interesting how our societal perception has changed over the last 30 years. I mean, I always start with the idea that back in the 1980s, 90s, the Golden Girls were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe 80s or so. And we thought all of that age bracket was old, so to speak. I'm 54, and I can tell you I don't feel it's old. The definition of old, as you heard in one of my other videos, is 10 years older than your current age. So if you're 50, you think 60 is old. If you're 60, you think 70 is old. I hear all the time someone saying, hey, you know what, when I'm 80, I don't care what I do anymore. But what's funny is my parents are in their mid-80s, and I will tell you they absolutely care what they're doing. They're actually right now in Portugal, and they're in Italy right now. They just went from Portugal. They're having the time of their life right now. If you tell them they're old, they're going to tell you you're crazy. We just went to Venice and went to Milan and had dinner, and they just bought a condo in Portugal, having a great time. So I'll tell you, it's all relative to how we perceive age. We have a different standard today because we have amazingly natural ways to make people look better. I think that one of the funny things, though, when we talk about the word facelift is that it's sort of a dirty word to anyone under the age of maybe 60. It's funny to say that, right? Because when someone hears, they think, the thing that I hear is, I'm too young for a facelift. It's just a standard way of looking at it. So when I talked, I guess last week I just did a 43-year-old facelift. And, she didn't feel she was too young. But there are patients, the first thing when I talk about, if I see someone with a sagging neck or saggy jawline and they're in their mid-40s, is, I'm too young for a facelift. That's for someone 60 to 70 years old. And I get that. I totally understand it. I feel I'm too young for a facelift. I'm 54. But I will tell you that it's a different world today. It's a different way of seeing the face, because now the recoveries are in my hands are not the 6-week recovery anymore. And my patients oftentimes at day 1 are looking pretty good with a facelift. What's interesting is you look more swollen with my fat graft for the first week to 10 days, and that's what's causing the distortion, even though that only took me 30 minutes to an hour to do versus my facelift, which took maybe 3 to 6 hours to do, depending on what I'm doing for you. And despite that long procedure, you think, well, that must mean I'm going through a lot of pain and swelling. No, if you listen to my 5-part series on a facelift, you'll see that most of my facelifts actually have a pretty easy recovery. It's my fat graft, which looks really weird for 7 to 14 days. So what I'm shooting this video is that facelift is oftentimes a dirty word for the younger set, because we are so thoughtful, we think about the word facelift relegated towards someone older. We're sort of in that Golden Girls thought process that, hey, it's not for me. And I've done lifts in 30-some-year-olds. And you say, well, why would you do that? Because I don't put them through a lot, and there's sag. There's something that I can make them look better on. And I'm not making them look artificial. What's interesting as a contrast, I turn a lot of 20 and 30-year-old hair transplant patients away because they're too young. Now, why is that? Because there's long-term risk. That's a whole video that I don't need to go into, but I can set them up for problems if I do a transplant in someone too young or not a good candidate. Whereas a facelift, and I use this analogy on my hair patients, I said, look, I could do a facelift on a 30-year-old and there shouldn't be an issue. So, well, now, Dr. Lam, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? Well, look at my before and afters. You'll see some patients that they're just born with a very heavy neck. It's a deep neck lift. It's almost like liposuction. I'm just taking down the deep digastric fat and subandibular glands. I need it. You can see in my videos that I've got a little bit of a double chin, and liposuction is not the trick for that. So it's something you may just be born with. It may not be aging related, that I'm managing just sort of, it's almost like a chin implant. You wouldn't think, why would a 25-year-old do a chin implant? But you would say, why would you do a neck lift on a 25-year-old? Because it's a different societal understanding. And we like the word neck lift. Guys also hate the word facelift. They think it's very feminine. They don't like the word facelift. So I may just use the word neck lift, even though essentially I'm lifting the neck and the face as one unit. And that's a confusing thing too. People say, what's a facelift? Because nowadays, facelifts, does it mean, mini lift? There's all these different types of fancy words that we use to describe facelifts. There's all these marketing terms, ponytail lift, vertical lift, all these things that are used in the marketing. As a scientist, I'm trying to keep as pure as possible by describing this as much as possible. Essentially what I'm talking about when I'm talking about facelift is everything from here down. It's the mid-cheek. It's because, why lift the mid-cheek? Because the fold, even though it doesn't eliminate the fold, you probably may need a little filler, need a little fat there, but and it doesn't get rid of the complete downturn. But when I can release the ligaments here, I lift the unit of the face, the jawline, and the neck as one unit to improve things. So the question is not, are you too young for the lift, but is it beneficial for you? So if you're only 40 years old and you heard me say, a facelift is a great idea, well, that you may think I'm insane. You think, well, and it's not that you have to do the lift, right? Everything I do is a menu item. You don't like filet mignon, I have sea bass. You don't like, I'm a vegetarian, you're a vegan, okay, I can give you some broccoli. So understand is that when I'm talking about a facelift, if you don't want it, no problem. But I want to help you with this stereotype in your head that this is for someone older. It's for someone that really has so much sag they need to do it. Because nowadays, just the idea of, hey, I've got a little bit of jowl, and now, of course, I can do some filler in the jowl. I have little other things, but when the neck is sagging, like if you like to worship the sun in your 20s, and you've got a saggy neck by the time you're 40 because the sun is what really caused it, or maybe you had a stressful life, whatever it is, if there's a lot of sag, why not do it if you have the budget for it? Because I don't put you through a big recovery, and I get you really, really natural, beautiful results that make you feel good about yourself. If it's within your budget or desires, I want you to get that mindset out that facelift is a dirty word.